Yeah, we're live now.
I was gonna say my coffee's empty, so I was gonna get
Oh gosh,
energy.
energy. Didn't you get some sleep last night, man?
I've been tired since my trips, man. It takes me longer to recoup than
That's
before.
that age, man.
That's for sure.
That's
That age,
that.
man.
That's that grandpa in
That's pretty true.
you. I mean, I can't say much. I literally feel the same every day, dude. Like I wake up tired. But
Hmm.
anyways, I've shared. So let me know when you're ready, and we'll do this thing.
I shared as well.
All right. So I'm gonna run that intro and let's get started.
All right.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma. This is, of course, for us watching live. This is Tuesday. We're a little bit early today. We're noon, which means if it's a Tuesday and you're watching it live, it is the Dharma Time edition. As always, he is the one and only the Dope Doctor, and I, of course, am the Dharma guy. And it sounds like you just turned on the Facebook because I can hear my echo.
Yeah.
Anyways, what's up, everybody? We're I don't know, we haven't been on for like a week, man. There's a lot of stuff going on. You were
Yeah.
busy gallivanting about. You
Well, it all
know,
started with this.
yeah, yeah.
All started with that
Um,
Steelers game.
oh boy, hey, you look like you got sun too, by the way. For those of you watching,
I don't. I wasn't. Haven't been out in the sun, so I don't know, man.
that's weird.
This is probably just me.
Well, either way, um,
It's probably blood pressure. I'm probably dying right now.
yeah. Well, if you guys want to see his sun face, you're listening to this at a later date or something like that, and you're listening on any of the major podcast platforms under Dope and Dharma. If you'd like to watch and participate and leave your comments, you can do so by checking us out on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, and just look up Dope and Dharma, and you can see the videos live, and you can comment things of that nature. All right, man. So today's a little bit different. We were literally just talking prior to the show. There's a topic that we wanted to discuss. Wasn't sure quite how to word it, or if you even fit the spiritual component, which everything fits spirituality, I guess. But either way, we're gonna go with it anyways, and hopefully you guys enjoy it or have something to say. So the topic was fun, and so the question that I posed to the one and only Dope Doctor here prior to going online is if you would have told me, and he agrees, we've talked about this numerous times. If you would have told either one of us, when we were 18 years old or so, that we would have the lives that we currently do, and we would absolutely love it, and be having a great time and feel fulfilled and fun, we would have probably hit you. Like we would have thought you were absolutely insane. No way
Right.
in hell. Like that's crazy. Blah blah blah. And so the question I posed is, after talking to some of the Utes out there, um, they seem to feel oftentimes that the only way to really have fun is by breaking the rules, right? Doing illegal activities, doing risky behavior, sketchy stuff. I think many of us who are in our 40s and up can probably relate to that to some extent. And so my question was, is there a way, or is it even possible, to have the kind of appreciation for the simple, fun things in life that you have in an older age and a younger age? Like, is it a teaching thing? Is it a spiritual thing? Or is it even possible? Like, do you have to go through that young, rebellious, risky behavior stage in order to make it to the old wise stage? I think the conventional wisdom is yes, right? I think the conventional wisdom is you do use your youth to make mistakes, and kind of that's where you learn from them, and that's where you kind of get it out of your system to where when you get to your older age you can kind of pursue the simpler things. However, there is a whole other population out there that would disagree, who made it to older age that never did some of the stuff that like him and I did, or maybe you did if you're watching this. Some of the more extreme things, right? Like I don't mean the simple little rebellious things. I'm talking about the really risky stuff that's like, man, you really like we all could collectively agree that's a bad idea, but we did it anyways. So I guess that's the philosophical or spiritual or whatever you want to call it question is that possible or whatever. So what are your immediate thoughts there, Dope Doctor?
I couldn't imagine uh, being content with my life as it is right now as a youth. Like you said, there's no way that I would have been able to explain how I feel, how comfortable I feel, how secure I feel, how confident I feel, how I like the simplicity, I like the calm, I like the quiet. I like being with one woman. I don't need items. I don't need a certain vehicles. I don't need certain toys. I don't need to be out and doing things. So it's really hard for me to even think that you can gain that level of comfort and security at a young age. I don't think it's intended for the young. I think what's
Right.
intended for the young is exploration. I think without exploration and adventure, I think that we go nowhere as a people, right?
Sure.
When you the more I think about it, it's almost like, let's think about native tribes, right? Native tribes seem real comfortable with simplicity, right?
Sure.
It seems like they must have had no desire of adventure or exploration of other places or invention, even, right? Unless it was a necessity.
Right.
And those tribes were managed and operated by the elders. So the elder mentality was the standard.
Right.
So it makes sense why they were comfortable. But what happened? They were taken over. Why were they taken
They were
over?
left
Because,
behind.
well, yeah, because progress is for the youth. Youth is progress. Youth is adventurous. Youth creates. Think about the same humans that sought that progress invented the iPhone, while some others were still walking around without even a weapon that could even, they could even kill something from distance. You know what I mean?
Right.
And yet
Yeah.
we have iPhones and rockets, and we've landed on other planets. So it's not that one group of people is less intelligent than another group of people. It's just the youthful mentality is allowed and accepted in many cultures, and therefore those cultures tend to progress. So it's got its positives and negatives, right? Because you and I would like to believe that, man, if everybody just was chill like we feel right now, it'd be a lot calmer and cooler, which is true. But then,
Yeah, sure.
we wouldn't have the stuff that we have. And I
Right.
enjoy my stuff. So yeah, young people, go at it, go explore, go feel like you gotta do whatever you gotta do. But at the end of the day, just like those old songs and poems say, it was right there all along. The peace and the comfort that you were looking for and the love that you were seeking was right beside you the entire time. But you had to go find out on your own. And that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Like you said something to me earlier that rang out, like especially true, right? When you said you don't need things, right? Like the vehicles or whatever.
Right. Right.
That couldn't be more true. Like I was thinking about that literally just a couple days ago. So that's why it's funny you mentioned
Right.
that was,
Right.
every vehicle I've ever had, the first thing I did was customize it.
Right.
Every vehicle, some
Mhm.
to different degrees, obviously.
Right.
Budget concerns were always there, and anybody who's into cars or vehicles knows that that's a really expensive hobby to get into.
Mhm.
But like, I have a truck now that like when I first got it, I did some things too. Nothing like crazy, but just some
Mhm.
stuff.
Right.
And the idea that at some point in the future, I'm most likely going to have to get another vehicle. This, might not last me the rest of my life. Um,
Right.
and so the thought of getting another one and doing anything to it, when I first thought of that, I was like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I was like, if I get another one, I don't know if I have any desire to do anything other than just keep it as it is from the factory.
Right.
Make sure when I purchase it, it has whatever things on it that I want, and then just that's it. I'm
Right.
done. And I
Right.
never, ever, ever, ever would have done that, early on in my life because it was a status symbol, right? It was hey, look at what I got. And to now I'm at my age, I'm like, I really don't care. Like, does it get me where I need to be?
Right.
Okay, I'm good. Um, and there is something to be said about I like the way you put that, right? Because I think that the other caveat here, right, that I see in my house a lot too, is the age old battle of age versus youth, right? Because as we age, I'm noticing a lot of old timers, right? Really, really judging and being upset with the youth, right? Like, and I
Mhm.
find myself kind of walking that path at times,
Mhm.
but I try to reel myself in by understanding that where they're at is different, right? And what I mean by that is, like, when I was a kid, I was always out, man. Like, it was the rule of my house was, once you leave the door, don't be coming in and out of my house. Come back when the street lights are on. And I would
Yeah.
be gone literally all day long and just
Right.
out doing stuff and getting into God only knows what. But like the kids these days, they don't for the most part. Like, the vast majority of the ones that I see, they spend their time indoors and either on, electronics or gaming or phones or what have you.
Right.
And they're still learning. I mean, they're still experiencing things. But I think for some of us who didn't grow up that way, it's hard for us to understand. Like, I'll give you a perfect example, actually.
Mhm.
So I remember years ago when my son, who's now 20, I don't know, 22, when he was 15, or a little bit younger than that, probably from the age of like 13 to 17, I'll say. He was a big gamer, big time into games. Like, he just played constantly. That was his life. And he would always talk about friends, right? Like, oh, these are my friends, and we would always try to explain to them, um, they're not your. Leo Ryan's is commenting. I resemble that remark, old timer. I think we all do, bro. We're all
Yeah.
kind of. I mean, who am I to
Big,
say? I got a
big time.
full gray beard. Anyways, uh, um, but anyway, so we used to talk to him, and he would always say, these are my friends, and these people are important to me, and blah blah blah. And we'd always say to him, they're not your friends, right? Like, they're not friends. You've never even met these people, and blah blah blah.
Right.
I think so. I grew up at the end of an era where we didn't have internet and things of that nature. Like, internet didn't come out until I was like at the end of my high school career. I think it was my my graduation year of high school. So I was about 18 when the internet like came onto the scene. And even then, it wasn't the internet that you see today, right? For those of you who are old enough to remember, it was like dialed up. It was instant messenger. Like, websites wouldn't even load sometimes. Like, it was cool, but it wasn't what it is today. And so I didn't understand the concept of online playing. I was introduced to it by my stepson at the time, years ago, Carlos. He got me into like online playing and stuff, and we were talking back and forth, and it was such a new thing for me. It was amazing to wrap my head around the idea that, like, we're playing together as if you're sitting right next to me, like we're talking, having a conversation, and looking at our screens, and then I'm playing with somebody in like a completely different country or whatever, and you start to play with these people on a consistent basis, right? And so where I'm at now, that's one of the hobbies that I have, right? You and I both like to enjoy to play some video games sometimes,
Right.
and you do mostly solo stuff by yourself,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
where I've kind of like got bitten by the bug because of Carlos. So now I have people that I know, and what I call them friends. Yeah, I think so. I think I would. Right? Like, are they close friends that I would invite over for, like, Thanksgiving dinner? No, probably not.
Yeah.
But they're people I know. I know what's happening in their lives. The point
Mhm.
I'm making is there's a connection there, a very
Right.
real connection with other human beings. And I think as we get older, like the older generations at the moment, they don't understand that connection. So what they see is you just sitting there playing a game. They don't realize that you're building connections,
Hmm.
because the way we built connection was going outside, hanging out with friends. Like, that's how we built, connections. So I think part of what needs to be a part of this discussion is us as older individuals looking back at the youth at the moment, realizing that we can't continue to put our life expectations and experiences onto the newer upcoming generations, because it's not the same world. It just isn't.
Right.
My kids had iPads, dude, at like 5. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
my little brain at 5 years old would explode if you just introduced an iPad. Like, I wouldn't have any idea like what to do with myself. I was playing with like blocks, and Transformers or GI Joes or whatever when I was a kid. So, um, but yeah, I agree with you. I like the way you put youth as progress. I think that our go-to sometimes as we get older, though, is we feel like it's unbalanced, and I don't know if it
Well,
truly is or not. I don't know if that's
I,
just my old eyes.
it's not for us, and I think we unfairly get upset or frustrated with young people.
Right.
Look, man, they're supposed to push the boundaries. They're supposed to be ridiculous. You have to be ridiculous to actually create everything that Captain Kirk was playing with is now in existence. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I really hated that stuff, man. I really was not a Star Trek dude. I was not a Star Wars dude. Those guys kind of got on my nerves a little bit. Hell, the Dungeon and Dragons dudes got on my nerves a little bit. Now, all of that stuff is our
It's
norm,
cool.
right?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's cool.
yeah,
There's
all
a new
that
movie coming
stuff.
out with
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, what I'm saying is our video games are created by people that really love that stuff. So
Right.
they loved their imagination so much that they said, I want to make this into video form.
Right.
I want they saw that flip phone that Captain Kirk would use. He would use that flip thing and
Yeah.
beam me up, Scotty. And then the flip phone came out. And I remember when I first had my first flip phone, as if I had a second. No, yeah. When flip phones came out, I remember being like, this is just like that Star Trek shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we need that. Now, what bothers us is the spirituality part of all this. I
Right.
think that's rightly so, but that's where we as older people need to dig into our spirituality more than young people need to dig into theirs. Do young people need to respect what has been? Yes. Do they need to respect the positive and the negative, the good and the bad, and all that? At least it was what it was, and you can't look at yesterday with today's lenses. Yes, but they're not going to get it by us being rigid or hateful towards them.
Yep.
The only way they can understand it is if we calmly explain to them what our experiences were, and that we, as behind that we may have appeared to be, we were still far above and beyond the generation prior to us. We were just as much progressive in our time as they feel in their time. For instance, you hear me joke often about jazz was the devil's music. I
Yeah.
mean, that was drug infested, nasty, dirty music, and yet by the time I was an older kid, it was the respected music. You know what I mean?
Right.
When I'm in high
Dignified.
school, it was dignified music,
Yeah.
and it still is to this day. And when Elvis came out, that was the devil's hips.
Shaking
That
his
was,
hips, man.
yeah, that was disgusting and horrible. And then again, later on, by the time I'm in college, that was the older generation's clean music. You know what I mean? And so we see it now. I tried Trinity. I tried. I watched about maybe 2 minutes to 5 minutes of the MTV Awards the other night.
I don't even attempt anymore.
Trinity.
Yeah. I don't even attempt.
Young people, do you? If you find that funny, if you find that entertaining, if you find that cool, I am officially old, and I just don't get it. I don't like it. I like music. I do like music. Let me repeat that. But what I don't like is the commentary in between, because to me it sounds like a bunch of posers and wannabes. If you just say the word bitch a lot, or you just you yell, the whole crowd goes crazy, and it's like I was just like, you're just a bunch of dorks, man. You guys just don't realize how stupid you really are. But you know what? I'm gonna let you be stupid, because we were probably real stupid when we were watching, Guns N' Roses act a fool and get kicked
Right.
off of MTV, and we were like, oh, and NWA not even allowed to be at any awards things and things like that. So what was cool to us, the adults in the room were probably saying the same thing. You bunch of fools. What do you
Yeah.
a bunch of wannabe thugs. And that's how I look at it. Everybody's just a wannabe, except at least back then, I feel like at least you were a real man, thuggish. Now
Right.
this ain't thuggish. You just, I don't know, man. So the spirituality really comes to us, Trinity. Wisdom is
I'd
for
agree.
us, and spirituality is for us. It's really not for the youth. What's for the youth is exploration and adventure. Go out and find it and fun, and hopefully you live through it like we did. Hopefully you live through it and you're able to enjoy this kind of peace that we now have now. What is Leo saying? I see my name on something. What is he saying?
Yeah, Leo said, what did he say? He said, first one was, I'm surprised that so many older adults at 65 or more still use AOL, as they were like the first forum on the internet.
Yeah.
And he followed that up with, he said, COVID brought the masters in gaming industry. The e-racing, like Louis is familiar with, it brought the training tools used for racing community and the public.
Amen to that, man.
Yeah, I think well, that's another piece, right? Like there's a lot of old timers at the moment right now who don't like this like mobile working, remote working thing. They feel
Right.
like if you're not showing up to work every single day, that you're not
Right.
getting work done. And the younger generation's like, why? Why do I have to go to work? I can literally do it from my house, you know? And
Right.
some of them are very productive in getting it done. And so that is a little interesting battle that's currently happening at the moment. But
Yeah.
um, I agree with you a lot, actually, with the whole spiritualities for us. That's not to say I don't think everybody could benefit from spirituality, of
Correct.
course,
Correct.
but I
Correct.
think the way we ingest it and the way we live it is different than the way the youth should ingest it
Right.
and live it. And what
Right.
I mean is, so the way I try to provide spirituality for my kids is by leading by example, right? Instead of trying to like quote unquote preach to them daily or give them life lessons every single day, like reading from a book or something.
Mhm.
Instead, I try to just behave in a way. Um, they are surrounded by so many adults that don't listen to them, that treat them poorly, you know, like yelling or whatever, teachers, other parents, who knows? There's no shortage of adults that don't treat them in a loving, compassionate way,
Mhm.
however you define that.
Right.
And so for me, I try to just lead by example. I try to make sure that whenever my kids are going through something, I try to validate where they're coming from. I try to listen to them. I try to hear them. I don't allow my own biases to interact with them in that way, right? Like I don't want to judge them. I try to listen. I try to be there. Even
Mhm.
if I don't agree with what they're doing, I try to do it in a way that doesn't come off as me like, you know, are you horrible person, you know? And for me, I think that it's brought them to me, right? It's attracted them to me because they know that it's not always going to be something they want to hear. They know that,
Mhm.
but they know I'm gonna do it in a loving way. They know that I'm going to do it in a way that like, look, I get what you're coming through, but let me offer you some wisdom here. And I
Right.
think by doing that, it gives them at least access to a different way of thinking, right?
Right.
Like I exude when I try to, anyways, when I'm interacting with the kids, I try to exude inner peace. I try to show them like, yo, that dude's just cool, man. Like he's just got a good headspace. And so
Right.
as they get older, they're going to look to me and say, wow, well, how would you handle it? Right. And it's kind of already happened a little bit in certain areas of my life, right? There's other groups that I've joined or I've become a part of that I was like the newbie at one point.
Right.
And
Right.
then as time progressed, the newbie is now the person that like all of them will reach out to, you know, for advice on things. So it's like, what is it in the AA stuff? Traction rather than promotion.
Right. Right.
There's something to that, right? Like just behave in a way that people can't help but look and be like, yeah,
Right.
that's kind of like that, you know? And because they're going to get taste from it from other things and they're going to realize that I don't like those interactions, but I always seem to like this interaction. So that person's got something and, you know, figured out. And I think what I've figured out for myself is just that internal peace. And that's what spirituality gave me. And that's what allows me to be comfortable and like all the things that I'm around. That's what gives me the ability to approach the youth, if you will, my kids or
Right.
whatever, when they're doing stupid things in a way to where I try my best not to be overbearing with it, things of that nature. Now, granted, my 18-year-old daughter would probably disagree with some of those statements because she thinks I'm like the gulag, but I think she still knows where I'm coming from. And at some point in the future, she might come back to me and realize, hey, you had some wisdom there. But I agree. I think that that's where spirituality comes into play for us, right? Is teaching those lessons, teaching those values, but not in your face kind of a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I don't think my kids will say that I exude inner peace. Um,
Mine
you
probably
know,
wouldn't either.
yeah. I think what they would say is that I probably exude a very comfortable existence. In other words, that I'm okay with what I've done, and I'm okay with what you do.
Right.
I understand and I have faith in you. I think what I exude is faith in the process, if anything. I think if I exude anything, it's that I have faith in the process of life. Life will do what you don't choose to do for yourself. Life will show you things that you may not want to see. Life will humble you when you do not wish to be humbled.
Yes.
Life will provide you a reality when you try to live in fiction. And if you accept life for what it is and you live long enough, hopefully, eventually you embrace it. And instead of like, there's two ways people have surfed, right? And when I say two ways people surf, there's a lot of, like real surfers are probably like, I don't know where he's going with this. So I'm going to tell you where, because I've only really surfed once in my life, and the way I've surfed, you guys don't call
Can
it
you call
surfing.
it? Oh, yeah, I'm about to say I don't know if I'd call it.
I do, because the way they surf is they have to be on their feet and they have to be like challenging the wave and all that crap and look like they're. I at first surfed accidentally backwards, still on my stomach, and I enjoyed that so much that when I went forwards and I realized I'm so damn exhausted from paddling and fighting this ocean that by the time I turned around and was ready to surf, I was like, I can't even get up on my feet, so fuck it. I stayed on my stomach and I surfed on my belly all the way. And let me tell you something, I still call it surfing because
Sure.
surfing at this age is gliding, people. And that's why that's how I feel in my life. I'm just chilling and I'm gliding. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's equally as enjoyable because it's not necessarily what you're doing on the ride, but that you're enjoying the ride. And I think often in youth, you're not really enjoying the ride. So the years, they feel like they're going slow, but they go so fast.
Yeah.
And then when we get older, you see how many older people realize, man, I should have embraced it a little bit more. I should have appreciated it a little bit more. I wish I should have, could have, would if I was young again and all that stuff. Well, you know what? I lived it. I lived my youth really hard and heavy, and I feel like I embraced it. So I feel like my gift to myself is that I've always at least lived. And now that living just appears different. It's a glide rather than
Right.
a challenging the wave, you know. And I think when you're young, you challenge that wave. You're like, oh, I know you're an ocean pushing, but I'm gonna go towards you real quick. All right, I'll turn
Yeah.
back around. You know, here you do, you know what I mean? And you kind of fight the power. But you're supposed to. And again, all of this is more meaningful only if you live long enough to enjoy it full circle. Um, that's the only time it really becomes meaningful, is when you live it full circle. Because if you unfortunately don't make it past those young ages and you die doing something reckless, like so many of us lose somebody that died doing something reckless, it's unfortunate, and all we can do is
Yeah.
hope that whatever's next, and I always just hope there's a next. I don't care who's right on the next as long as there's a next. No, wait, let me take that back. I do care about some people's what's next, because I don't want to come back as a cockroach, and I don't want to just sit in a darkness and it just be dark, or some fiery hell. I don't want those next. But there's a lot of other necks that people talk about that sound pretty cool, and
Right.
I'm willing to accept. But whatever it is next, maybe that's why we're being prepped like this, Trinity. Maybe
Maybe.
we're getting to a place that's getting us more prepared for the transition to the next. Just like we thought that we were caterpillars turning into butterflies, in our teens and 20s, when in reality it's probably closer to death. That's really when we're turning from caterpillars to butterflies.
Yeah,
and
I'd
I
see that.
and I look forward to the butterfly experience.
Yeah, I'd see that. And before we move on, I have to make an acknowledgement. So my daughter, my 12-year-old, is not feeling well. She's homesick with fever and throwing up and stuff, and she's at her mom's house at the
Mm.
moment. However, she's
Mm.
watching. So, hey, baby, I hope you're feeling better today.
Oh, okay. So you weren't saying hi, baby, to Leo
No,
when
and that was
you're
on
posting that?
the only people who saw that were on YouTube, by the way. So, but
What's
anyways,
Richard saying? Richard.
no,
Why? You don't
because
want
he's
to
still on
mention
this. I did not
Richard
do any of
from
that stuff to him.
Facebook Live? I mean, he
Yeah.
deserves all the attention and respect for enjoying the
Oh
show.
my
And
gosh.
he said something. What did he say?
He said he used to pretend he was surfing when he would have these dreams that I was pushing his head in the toilet. So that stuff never happened. And then
Or at least
Leo followed that up with some of these gaming kids will be some that will be operating the autonomous cars and trucks, watching their tiny screens. Yeah. So
Leo's typing really fast, man.
yeah,
His
it's hard to
fingers
keep
are
up
hard.
with some of it. Um,
No, I mean it's like the spelling.
oh,
He's got big fingers, man. Leo's got big fingers on little phone. Big fingers on little phone.
right on. Yeah, I think for me that's the thing you said earlier about life will humble you. I do
Yeah.
think that that's the great teacher, right? I think that that's what it is.
Yeah.
As you age, life humbles you and you become teachable. Because
He
I know,
can't even spell
yeah,
Nazi
Leo.
right. He can't.
So Leo called him a word Nazi, and yeah, we're gonna pretend like we didn't see that. No soup for you. Um, but anyway, no, I think that's what it is too, right? Is humility, right? Because every
Right.
generation thinks that they're going to be the one. You know, every
Yeah.
generation thinks they're like, oh, I'll do it, and then by the time they get like in their 40s, they're like, okay, yeah, it can't be done. You know, certain things like you can't tame life,
Right.
and we all think that we can. At
Right.
18, 19, 20, we think we can tame life, and as you get in your 40s, you realize, no, you can't. Life is what it
No.
is, and it's always going to be that. And so I think
Yeah.
that to me is where the balancing act needs to come in. Though is while I think having fun and doing risky behavior is just part of growing up.
Right.
The only thing that concerns me looking back is the kind of risks that are taken. I feel are they're more free to take riskier risks, if you will. You know what I mean? Like it
Well,
seems
certain
in
things are game
today's
changers. Certain things are
yeah,
just total like fentanyl is a total game changer. So
yes.
that's not risk taking. That's just
Well,
if
they
you're
see it
new,
that way.
if you're new out there, and I'm not, and this is very important. If you're new to the drug scene and take a pill, in other words, you're still not abusing, you're still not addicted, you're still not using. If you're new to the drug scene, then it's an act of stupidity to take a pill that somebody gave you. If you're already in the
Agreed.
drug scene and addicted to something, then it's an act of survival and risk. That's different. Now you're risking it because you're like, man, I know the high that I'm looking for, so I'm risking it. But if you're brand new to the drug scene, it's not risky. You're actually just being plain stupid because you know damn well over 100,000 people died of fentanyl in the last year, and so so risk is subjective.
Agreed. Yeah, I think I just look at some of the risks that the kids are doing at such a younger age.
Right.
And it's just like, wow, dude, because some of them, and that was the thing. All right. So that was the way I tried to teach all my kids, and I still do, um, is try to remind them, hey, I get it. You know, you're young and dumb right now. You're supposed to be. That's part of the growing up process. However, always keep in mind that there could be permanent consequences to some of these things.
Mhm.
You know, like you don't ever want to do something in your youth that you now have to pay for the rest of your life. And that's the thing that I think that needs to be balanced with. You know, I think that that's where our job comes in, is to be that little reminder. You know, but in a loving way, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to add to that a little bit. I
Sure.
would like to add the understanding that most every decision you make absolutely affects your future.
Absolutely.
Some in a bigger way and some in a smaller way, but they all do. So since
Yes.
every decision is going to affect the future moment that you're about to experience, and some a little bit more permanent, then that is what should make you more cautious about the experience. Because if it's some things do and some things don't, then you tend to always believe, well, this one won't. You know, it didn't last time, so it won't this time. No, the last time, the reason you're saying that I did it before, nothing bad happened, the reason you're using that is because you got away with it. But the reason you're using a second time is because you did it the first time and got away with it. So it did impact your risk taking behavior. It made it easier for you to do it again. It made it easier for you to make the same error in judgment twice. And then doing it 2 times makes it easier to do it 3 times. These are all prerequisites to doing real damaging stuff. You know, so the more prerequisites you put in place, which you will, we all do it. The more prerequisites we do, the more professional type crap we do, but maybe not with the skill set of the pro. In other words, like Leo brought racing up, right? Car racing.
Sure.
You know, there's like 40 drivers out there, but not all 40 drivers have the exact same skill level, but yet they're all expected to drive the same type of performance vehicle. So some can't get away with the same kind of little errors in judgment or lack of skill that others can. And that's how life is, right? We're all out there, and some people just have a higher skill level. Some of you are driving way too reckless for not only your personal skill, but the vehicle you're doing it in. You know, you may think I can go in and out, but you're not driving the same vehicle that you drove on, you know, Forza or some, you know, some Gran Turismo on the internet. You're driving a piece of junk $3,000 vehicle that doesn't have the same tires, suspension, engine, or braking capability, and definitely doesn't have the same driver that can wreck into a wall and then just reset and start over. You know what I mean?
Right.
So these are the things in life that I think are difficult with the way some of our learning is now, Trinity, is that
Right.
we didn't learn through uh
Simulation.
Yeah, through simulation. So when you scratch yourself, you scratch yourself. You hurt yourself, you hurt yourself.
Yeah.
They're learning activities first in simulated form, and therefore when you do it real, remember that same fear is not there. And again, to use a racing thing, you can learn how to drive on a simulator, but what doesn't exist on a simulator is the G-force. So you don't feel
Right.
that same G-force or the fear of death because you
Yeah.
don't think you can die on a simulator, which you can't. So those two things are very important to make good decisions sometimes out in the real world.
Yeah, and I think so moving forward from the older individual's perspective, right? Who's looking at the world, and be it you're in a position of teaching or you're just a witness. Um, I think perspective is kind of important for us, right? Perspective in the sense of we got to keep in mind that it's a different world.
Right.
They're trying to kind of figure out who they are, whatever. Um, Even my own life, right? Like I did some really like, gosh, dude, I'm not going to go into the uber criminal stuff, but even just surface level criminal stuff, I guess technically. Um, when I was on my motorcycle, right? Like, gosh, man, I had some amazing times in my life. Some of the best times of my life
Hmm.
were when my friends and I would be out doing these motorcycle stuff. We went to South Carolina and rode in the mountains and stuff. Um, but at the same token, dude, I could have died literally any night that I went out. Like the stuff that we were doing on our bikes, literally just I'm only here from luck. Yeah, there
Right.
was probably some skill involved because I spent a lot of hours in the seat, but at the end of the day, at any given moment, any little thing could have gone wrong, and I'd not be here now.
Right.
And so part of me says, man, I really shouldn't have done those things. But then the other part of me is like, yeah, but I'm glad I did. Like, I look at where I'm at now, and like I have all these memories and stories to tell, things of that nature. So I think we have to kind of keep that perspective when we're talking to the younger people. Like, do we really want them to never experience anything and make it to 40, 50 years old, have no stories, no memories, no excitement? Probably not, because you wouldn't want to do that to yourself. So you got to keep that perspective. And you also have to remember their perspective. Dude, it's got
Well,
to be terrifying right now to be like, 12, like my daughter who's watching this at 12 years old. I can't imagine how terrifying it is for her every day to like, this is my life now. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get older? You constantly have all these people tugging at you and wanting you to do this and doing that. You have parents telling you no constantly. Excuse me. You have friends telling you how great this is. You're exposed to social media. You're exposed to the
right.
internet where you can see videos of people doing horrible things that look fun and they have like millions of views, and everybody, the society is saying that that's somebody to be looked up to right now. Like, it's got to be crazy to be a younger individual in today's world. Go ahead. I could see something happen.
Nah, what you see is that, you were mentioning some of the stuff that we may have done in our vehicles and the risky behavior we took with our vehicles, whether it be cars, trucks, planes, trains, automobiles, motorcycles, all that
Sure.
stuff. I mean, but that's all we had. Again, you know what I
Right.
mean? So we used what we used. I mean, when's the last time you really saw kids running around with BB guns? You know what I mean?
No, but I did. We used to shoot cars.
Exactly. So, so what I'm saying is it's just very different.
Yeah.
Um, and you said that do we really want them to not have these experience or some experiences, right? And I'm thinking, and I asked myself that why you said that is what you saw. My brain going, and I'm thinking, now I'm cool with them leaving the dorky life, nerdy life, and I'll tell you why. Because um their experiences are different. First of all, I remember asking my cousin from Puerto Rico one time when he was young, don't dude, you never saw snow? And I was like, dude, how is that? And he goes, how do you miss what you never had?
Yeah. Sure.
And then it makes sense. It's like, wow, so he never experienced snow, so therefore how can he miss snow? How can he want something he never had? So yeah, I'm cool with them never experiencing that stuff because they don't necessarily have to miss something they never experienced, right?
Sure.
But their risky behavior, Trinity, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I really believe that I'm right on this. The risky behavior these days is doing the stupid shit that you see on TikTok and then repeating it. So like these pepper things, like when they just swallow like a spoonful of some sort of
Yeah.
powder.
The
All
cinnamon
these real,
challenge. Yeah.
yeah, all these little stupid little challenges. That's their risky behavior. That's their stuff.
Some of them.
When people copy Jackass stuff, because they saw the movie
Sure.
Jackass, or they watch
Sure.
shows like that, or watch ridiculousness, and they say, "Here, hold my beer," and they try. That's their stuff,
Right.
So I do believe they'll do it. It may not
Some of
be the
them.
same as ours, well, I think a lot of young people try that stuff, and they put
No,
it out
but
there.
there's other risky behavior. There's like, I mean, come on, man. The kids that I've encountered, like you said, some of them are approaching like fentanyl, heroin. Some of them
Well,
are
well, no
approaching,
doubt. Well, no doubt.
obviously,
But
sleeping
no,
with,
no,
everybody.
right. Well, first of all, that's not even considered risky behavior to them. The
That's
sleeping
my
around
point. Yeah.
situation that's out of control.
Yeah.
But that's again because we're older. Because when we were younger, we'd be like, "No, that's right on point, brother. We're good with this." You know what I mean? But
To an extent, but it's progressed. Because I remember when I was a kid in middle school, it was like a big deal. One kid was caught getting, getting oral sex from somebody at
yeah,
middle school, and
yeah,
it was like unheard of. It was like, whoa, they did what? Like in middle, like it was like 6th grade, 7th grade. It blew our minds, like that even was a thing back then.
uh,
Fast forward to where we're at now, like I'm
yeah,
hearing a lot worse
yeah.
stories of like that happening at the same age, if not younger.
Yeah, yeah, and again, that's regional area and stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Some things are just a lot more widely accepted. And again, it's through it's that delicate balance between filter.
Yep.
What do we censor? What do we filter? We as a generation just haven't been great parents. As a generation, we just haven't.
Nice little sucker punch there.
Well, I just don't know when the last great parents were. I'm trying to think in my head right now as I'm speaking. When was the last generation of great parents, right? But it sure wasn't the baby boomers. The
No.
baby boomers suffered so much. They came from suffering. Their parents were like that's the World War II kids, right? And so they were all born at a certain time, and they were a booming generation, and they started getting things. And so when they started getting things, they started liking. That's when the Joneses. That's what's keeping up. The Joneses
Sure.
began with the baby boomers. So they showed us excess. They taught us excess. That's when we got our color television sets. That's when we finally got cable television. That's when we finally got more than 3 channels. That's when we got our Ataris.
Yeah.
That's when our rooms had TVs. I mean, up until that point, it didn't happen. But the baby boomers did that for their kids, and so I'm the generation where they did that too, and we just had everything. And so how are we supposed to be good, fundamentally sound parents when the part that we changed the most was I hated the kids were to be spoken to, be seen but not heard. We hated all the kids were never right. You had to respect every elder, even the shitty ones. And so we fought that part of it so much that look what we did. We raised kids without rules and regulations. We says, oh no, it's fine to think whatever you think. It's fine to feel whatever you feel. It's fine to do whatever you do. Just do you. Just do you. You're beautiful no matter how ugly you really freaking are. You're great no matter how poor behavior you exhibit. You're right no matter how wrong you really are. We started doing that crap with our kids, and then we go like, oh, the kids today. Well, we did this. but we did this to them. But the other thing we did to them is at least we let them go to the edges of their boundaries, and so some have taken it, in some opinions, too far. But I'm cool with that because the pendulum will always swing back. So I'm cool if they take
Right.
it like really to a very different level and want me to call them a letter as a name. Okay, I'll call you a letter as a name. Remember we had Prince. Prince did that. That was the first
The symbol. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a symbol. And it was like we accepted it. We're like, oh, that's so cool. It's Prince. No, it was
No, I
really
thought it was
stupid
stupid personally.
and ridiculous. Yeah, so did I. I thought it was really stupid and ridiculous then, and it's still pretty stupid and ridiculous now. And don't ever call me Latinx. I think that's the stupidest thing. So,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is these are the things that just happen, and in really, it's a test. Again, bringing it all the way back, it's a test to our spirituality.
Yes.
How faith driven are we? How comfortable are we in our own belief system of whatever we believe to not impose it upon others and let them live their life just as we lived ours? Now we still got some time to go. We're not done. We're
Yeah,
not
of
in the
course.
ground.
I hope
We're not,
so.
yeah. But our day of extreme adventure is over, and now we have smaller like adventures now are like, let's go to the Grand Canyon. That's our adventures today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's different. It's different. Let's take a cruise. Go on a cruise.
Right.
That's our adventures today. Whereas when you're a kid, it's yeah, let's go to the Grand Canyon by hitchhiking the whole way. It's like, oh hell no. Let's
let me
backpack
go free
Europe.
jumping into it.
Yeah,
Let me go
yeah. I'm
bungee
not.
diving. In.
Yeah, I'm not dropping down and backpacking. Europe. I'm not staying in a hostel, dude. I'm staying in a Marriott. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I like Marriotts. I got my points. I got my status, and that's right.
Oh God. So we have a couple comments while we're doing it. Let me put these out here. So Richard off of Facebook Live said, look, learning through simulation is a poor instructional method. Trial and error is key. We need to get back to a place where we let kids learn by doing dangerous activities carefully. Don't let it kill them, but pain associated with bad decisions isn't always a bad
Right.
thing.
Right.
I don't necessarily disagree with that.
I don't either. And Richard, Richard, regardless of what he does now, remember he was on a pit crew. He was on Kyle Busch's pit crew. Richard, you can't learn that in simulation.
No,
You
no.
can't do that part.
But having said that, there's people learning on drones right now, bombing other countries.
So
never
some
even
things you
leaving.
can, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Some things you can highly effectively, and then some things you can't.
Correct. And then Leo followed that up with it got out of hand after the Ice Bucket Challenge for AOS. When we did it, it was somewhat safe, but now stuff has gotten crazy. See, I want to touch on that for just a second, right? Because I think that's a dangerous mindset to get into, right? Because while, yes, certain things have gotten definitely out of hand, but let's not pretend, though, that when we were doing things, it wasn't crazy either. Because the tools that we had access to, I mean, how many young people have died in car crashes because they were just going? I mean, James Dean, right, was a famous one, was out there racing, doing stuff like taken before his prime.
Yeah, but that's going to be a constant. That's going to be a constant.
That's
I think
my
what he's
point.
talking about is specific challenges.
Yeah, the specific, like the Tide Pod eating challenge is stupid.
Well, you know what they don't do now?
Oh,
Remember
wow,
the night?
yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah,
Remember
I did that.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me
I
too.
did that.
But I did it very slowly. I was never really fast at it, and
I got
thankfully I
faster.
wasn't very fast. No, I could not go.
I nicked myself a couple
when
times.
you watch it on TV,
Yeah.
there's no, mine never made a. The only thing that I made that noise with was my razor blade against glass. That I could go really, really fast, but never a knife through my fingers that fast. Man.
We also got Russian roulette. You don't hear about that very much anymore.
I did that one time.
Yeah, that's kind of a that's pretty dangerous and pretty stupid, right?
That one time.
All I'm saying is like when we're talking to individuals, what I'm getting at is we can't have this romantic notion that things were so vastly different, right? Things are different in certain instances, yes, but a lot of the stuff that we all did back then, if you really think about it, could have killed us too. So like we got to keep that in mind when we're talking to them. Like it's when I'm talking to my kids, when I'm talking to my 17 or now 18-year-old daughter, I got to keep in mind, man, I was once young and dumb and stupid too, and I did really dumb things. Like if I were to, like, as a parent, if my son did the things that I did, when I would have more gray hair, dude. Like the stuff that I did was, I've got pictures of me wrecking cars or whatever. My mom in the background, like, oh my God, I can't imagine what I went through with some of the stuff. And those are all very dangerous things that could end in an instant. So like,
well, they were low percentage things. You were doing low percentage things and getting away with it. I mean, that's just you're not supposed to get away with it.
No, you're not.
You're not supposed to stand on a motorcycle and live. That's not what it's intended for. It's a seat. It's a seat, Trinity. It's a car seat. It's not a step. It's not a step stool. It's not, you know what I mean? So you're right.
So,
you know what? You just brought up something that I think maybe that's why, because I get asked all the time, like, how are you with your kids? Because everybody expected that I was going to be like some overbearing father and not like the boyfriends that they bring home. And I don't know how my daughters have prepped the guys that they've went out with, but all of them are very respectful and they actually ask for permission of stuff. So however my daughters prep them, it's really good. But more importantly, I think that because they live, to me, such a calm, peaceful existence compared to what I lived, I have zero fear. Like they'll go out and I don't feel like, oh my God, are they going to be okay? Oh my God. But I guess because I'm looking at it like, yeah, what are they going to do? You know what I mean? What's going to happen to them? I mean, I know bad stuff can happen and accidents can happen. It's not that I'm naive. I'm not seeing them make the same poor decisions. So I think they're going to make, high percentage decisions rather than low percentage decisions.
I've got one like that.
Okay.
It's the one watching.
Good.
The other ones, I'm a little bit more worried about them. The track history here is different.
Just put a helmet on that one. Just put a helmet
But no, I agree. Like I said, like I think you nailed it on the head, man. That's where our spirituality comes into play. Is to you got to come from a balanced,
Yeah.
compassionate
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
You've got to accept where you're at, where you've been. You've got to appreciate the finer things in life for yourself, and then you exude that to those around you, and you
Right.
approach them from a loving, compassionate place, understanding that their perspective is going to be different, man. Like
Right.
they're just starting out, and like I said, I remember when I had a T-shirt that to me I was so proud of this T-shirt back in the day, and looking back on it, it's just it's such a young, stupid mentality, but
Well,
that's the one I had for the better part of my entire life. And the T-shirt says like attack. It was back when I was in my motorcycle racing and stunning days.
mhm,
There's a picture of the Grim Reaper riding a motorcycle, and it said attack life. It's going to kill you anyways.
mm,
And the mentality I had back then is I didn't care if I died.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
doing what I wanted. And I was doing, I mean, I remember there was days when we were out there, there's a bunch of us out on bikes and stuff doing things.
right,
And I would have friends, like one of my friends one night was doing a wheelie and hit somebody else and he lost his leg. Like I remember picking the bike up and moving it with chunks of his like meat on the
right,
bike. And it was horrible. And we had to wait and they had to helicopter him out and stuff. And then on the way home, I'm doing wheelies.
yeah,
Like literally what he just did, I watched it like it was a horrific sight to look at. It was disgusting. And on my way home, I'm doing the exact same thing that he was doing, knowing
right,
it could happen to me. Because in my lifetime, where I was at then, I didn't care if I died, and I probably truly
huh,
didn't. I was just like, whatever, dude. I didn't think, wife and kids and stuff later on in my 40s. Like it didn't occur to me. And it wasn't because there was
mm,
nobody in my life telling me, hey, you should probably be more careful. I had
right,
plenty of people telling me that. It just, my brain was, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't care. I see this. I want to do it. I want to have fun. The adrenaline rush I'm getting from this means more to me than you telling me not to. And yes, if you would have told me back then that you're going to be married with kids and they're going to be loving him, I would be like, you're insane. There's no way. I'm I rider for life, man. I don't even have a bike anymore, and I don't
yeah.
miss it.
Neither one of us even have a motorcycle anymore.
Yeah, I don't even miss it. To be
It's
honest with
insane.
you,
It's insane.
like if somebody would give me one, I wouldn't even want it right now. Now, if I lived elsewhere, maybe. But my
Well,
my immediate thought,
I'll take it. You want to give it to me? I'll take it because
my
I'll
immediate
sell it.
thought right now, yeah, that's what I'm saying is I wouldn't ride it because my immediate thought is A, it's too hot. B, the drivers here in Orlando are no, I'm not trying to deal with that every day. Now, if I lived out in the mountains or somewhere, I can actually, yeah, I'd probably take one. But so
Mm,
my point is just we have to kind of keep those thoughts in mind, man.
mm,
Sometimes the best you can do is observe and give advice when asked, and be there when inevitably life humbles them, because we all know life will humble them, and the hope is that when the humbling takes place, it's not a forever kind of consequence. It's a temporary setback that you can kind of move on from and learn from, and then help them learn that lesson. Don't tell them I told you so. Don't tell them they were stupid for doing it. Help them learn the lesson. Be like, all right, it didn't go well for you, did it? All right, so
right,
maybe moving forward, make different decisions. But you can very easily turn them off and push them further away if you're coming at it from "I told you so" perspective. Not to
right.
say you can't sneak one in every now and then, because I do. I'm gonna be honest. But the overarching theme needs to be one of compassion. It's like I get it. I was there too.
I think what's also important to note, Trinity, is that I didn't do those things just because they were fun. I thought that because that's as deep as that I could get. I didn't think. The world wasn't set up to explore emotions or to dig into your life for reasons of why you do what you do, right? It just
Right.
wasn't set up that way. Um, it is set up that way now. Like children have a lot more opportunity to explore their emotions and thoughts and feelings and other outlets, but it wasn't like that. Now you can disagree or agree how the world is right now, but I don't know. I think we're still in a training period, right? It's still kind of new because in past generations we weren't allowed to do that. So the way we expressed our emotion was uh, like me looking at a guy like you. Like the first time I met you, I told you, well, it's a diary. You have a diary, but your diary is your body. You choose to put your life story on you. That's how you express yourself. That's how you have told your story of where you've been, what you like, what you're into, and that's how some people express, whether it be a pain or whether it be a serious persistent thought or emotion that's inside yourself. And then there's behaviors, right? So
Right.
that I don't care if I die behavior came because I was depressed, but I didn't know I was depressed. I didn't know that I was suicidal, but my behavior would say that. It would indicate that because I did things that the more dangerous they were, or the more close to death I would get, the more exciting they became to me, and the more that people responded in a way like I would never do that, then the more intoxicating it became, because it made me a bigger person, because I felt like such a small, insignificant person on the inside, that all that stuff on the outside made me feel more important and valuable. And so I tended to do more of it rather than less of it. And then there was that time, because you mentioned the motorcycle thing. So it reminded me of a story when I was on China Beach in 1989. It was a top show on TV, and I'm on
Name
featured actor
dropper.
on it. No, I'm saying it for a reason. So I was going on this, but it was a far from LA, so you had to go up the Ventura Freeway to get to, because we filmed on the studios. We still at the studios. We filmed at Zuma Beach, and then we filmed, and I don't remember the place it was, but it was up Ventura Boulevard. It was like a whole a village. Like that's where the village was of China Beach, so that they created, right, the military village. So I rode my motorcycle, and what I used to like doing is when you'd see two rigs together, two trucks close together side by side, there's a small gap in between. And in California, they had this rule law that allowed you to ride on the yellow line. So in traffic, you would go on the yellow on the white line. You'd go in between traffic, and so you never have to stop in traffic on a motorcycle. And it was illegal, and so you would do it and be like, oh my God. The first time I did it, I remember being so scared. I was like, is somebody going to spit? Is somebody going to throw a coffee cup out? They're going to have their arm out. They're going to open their door, change lanes, all that stuff. But then as I kept doing it, it became more intoxicating. And then I took bigger risks on doing it, because it was no longer hard. It was no longer scary. So I did more scary stuff. So then when two rigs would get together, I found that to be the scariest moment, because truckers will mess with you. Truckers don't like you messing with them. And so you'd have to shoot that gap in between them so fast that it kind of freaks them out. But there's this wind tunnel it creates, and this noise of when you're going through that is just intoxicating. It's like, wow. And it's like having two speakers on your side, and you could die at any moment. So I did that, and then I got pulled over. I was flying, and I got pulled over by a cop. And anyway, so I go on the set, and I'm on the set, and I forgot all about it. The cop didn't give me a ticket, by the way, because I used the China Beach. That's when I name dropped, by the way. I was going to China Beach, and he let me off. So I'm on the set, on China Beach, they would have the directors would never direct twice. Like, it was always a rotating director. But this guy was the second time around, so we had met each other before. And so he called me over, and I go talk to him. He goes, and we have a conversation. I don't know the whole conversation, but the part of the conversation I remember, he goes, what happens if you get everything you want out of life and you're not ready for it? And I was like, damn, it hit question. Me. What happens if I get everything I want and I'm not ready for it? And it hit me, because I guess he didn't like the story, because I was telling everybody else the story, and everybody was getting off on it and liking it and laughing. But the way he interpreted that story was like, we've had a lot of kids like you come through Hollywood, and and he mentioned James Dean, and then, people like the River Phoenixes of the world. And it meant something to me when he said it. It was like, we see a million of you. You come out here and you get everything you want, and then you just throw it all away. You wreck it. And right. I'm thinking, damn, bro. That stayed in with me so heavy that the whole reason I ended up even leaving Hollywood was that sentence, that statement. That statement is more life-changing to me than most any other, because he saw me do something. I had no real understanding or reason to say anything cool about it to him, because it wasn't cool to him. It wasn't anything to him other than just, that's just you trying to be something you're not. You're trying to attain something you're never going to get, because you are that in here, and until you see it in here, it's never going to mean anything. You can't get risky enough. You can't get bad enough. You can't do bad enough. There's no thing that you're going to do that's ever going to give you that fulfillment. That can only be found internally. And so, wow, man, it was just intense. And so that's what I would say. I think maybe when we speak about these things, we have to at least explain to young people that the only reason we did these things is because we were suffering some sort of thing. And for me, I know what my thing was. Mine was a pain. Mine was insecurity. I felt small and insignificant. I felt weak. And those were the worst things you could be. at that time period in life. You know what I mean? But that's where I was. That's how I felt. Because and it's not, Jimmy, my brother, it's not your fault. You were doing what you felt like you were doing. You're being the big brother, but I don't want to say that he did that to me, but he was physically abusive, and that was my interpretation of that physical abuse. And so there were just things that I think that we all need to know cause certain behaviors. These behaviors don't just happen. When people are doing risky behaviors and they're doing the stupid shit, they don't just come out of nowhere. They come from something that started really young, that happened to us, that we didn't deal with properly, and then it just climbs up, man. When you don't process it right and you don't deal with it right, it just manifests into something and evolves into something very dangerous.
Well said, man. We have a couple of comments that were happening while we were talking. Let me read those before we wrap up. Leo said, once again, these comments, most of them are coming in from Facebook Live. And if you guys ever want to join the conversation, go to Facebook Live, look up Dope and Dharma, and you'll find us there. Leo said, then came the participation trophies. We got soft. I know a lot of people that would agree with that.
Yeah.
The Richard followed that up with, I think the military aspect is completely different. They use drone strikes for two reasons: less boots on the ground, but a bigger reason is if you are watching a screen and pressing a button, there's a lot less accountability than if you are looking at the
Yeah.
eyes of the enemy and having to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then Leo said, but the influence you can bring to a younger person by stopping them to say, do you know what this will feel like if A goes wrong or B goes wrong? Unlike, hey, check this 9-volt battery by putting your tongue on the probes and let me know if it is charged. We could take a moment to teach and educate. Yeah, I agree. I think that I would strongly advocate of guiding and putting wisdom. We just got to do it in a way that doesn't turn them off.
Right.
And then Richard says the theme he used when his kids hit the wall is laughter. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I'm the one that'll trip them and tell them not to do it anymore. So, you got anything you want to put on there? Final thoughts you want to wrap up with before we call today?
No, I think I just did. So you go
Yeah,
ahead.
I do.
You wrap up.
Yeah. So once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you're watching this on any of the platforms, be sure to like and share and subscribe, whatever. Whether you realize it or not, that actually does help us get seen more. And follow us on social media. He's at the Dope Doctor. I'm at the Dharma Guy. Let me put those up real quick for you. There you go. Yeah, I'd say that it's a balancing act on the youth's part as well as ours. Younger generation has to balance this yearning to explore and have adventure and take risks and experience all the complexities that life has to offer, but they also have to balance that with the idea that you might be around later on, and so you should have some sort of a plan. You should have some sort of a foundation that you build upon, because at some point, the people taking care of you aren't going to do that anymore, and so you're going to have to be in a position to take care of yourself and have a life that you built. And if you spent your whole entire youth taking risks and not really planting any roots anywhere, then it's likely that when you become an adult that you're going to be somebody else's problem, as opposed to be able to have independence and live on your own and whatnot. Not to mention, you got to keep in mind that some things are permanent. So there are some risks that you're going to take right now that could very well end in some sort of a permanent reminder or permanent consequence that you're going to have to deal with. And nobody wants to hear how much that sucks, because they're all going to look back and say, well, you did this. It's part of the consequence. And you're going to have to live with that. But then on the flip side, we as the older, wiser generation also have to have balance. We need to be able to give our guidance and our wisdom that we've learned over the years, and the lessons that we've learned and the humility that we've gained. We absolutely should share that. I mean, it's not ours to keep, right? Like, we earned it, but we can also share it, because the youth is earning it every day, whether we see it or not. So we should absolutely give that to them, and provide that guidance. However, we also have to keep in mind, though, that we were once that way. Like, that's part of the passage of life is being young and taking risks and figuring out what your limits are and figuring out what you're capable of and what you like and what you don't like. They've been told no for so long of their lives. So when they finally get a chance to do things on their own, they're going to take it. And I get it, and so we have to understand that when we're talking to them. And then we also have to understand that our way is not the right way. Our way was our way. And the newer generations are going to have different ways. And sometimes it might look ridiculous to us. It might look stupid to us, but that's part of the process. If you're in the older generation, you've reached that point now where everything the young people do looks stupid. You know, the music sucks now. The movies suck. The way they dress sucks. The jargon, you know, the words that they use are stupid and don't make sense. My kids use words like cap, you know, to mean lying. That doesn't make any sense to me. But when I was a kid, I used to say bad. And my mom was like, what do you mean? Like, because bad meaning good, you know? And so that's just the passage of life. That's part of it. So you can't get lost in this idea of, you know, we were never there, because we were. We made it through, like you said, but we made it through for a purpose. And that purpose is to share it to the younger generations. So anyways, I think that's all I got today. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. We having a Friday show for politics? Oh, you muted yourself.
Yeah, I muted myself, man, because you know the dog was going in and out.
Sure.
Plus, if you saw why I got off because he was trying to chew this up. He ain't
Let him
chewing
have it.
this up.
You might
Hell
get
no.
sick though.
Brother. I'll tell you something, man. We're all good.
Mhm.
No, we're done, man. That's it.
Are we having a show on Friday?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so we'll on Friday we'll be on air again on probably noon, I'm assuming, and we'll be having our political show, We the Middle. So if you're interested in the politics of the day, not a lot of philosophy going on there, but mostly just the politics, us commenting on them. Be sure to tune in on Friday from 12 to 1, and if you want to watch it afterwards, just look for it on all the major podcasting channels or look on it for YouTube, things of that nature. So anyways, that's all we got. Now that you know better, do better. Peace.